Good morning everyone. You might notice a slight difference in the picture quality. I've had to go back to my old video camera simply because I run out of battery energy in the other one. I must treat myself to a battery charger. Anyhow, not to worry. Whether you will notice anything, I don't know. Anyhow, today I thought I'd go a little bit further and look into a phone which I've had a while and give a bit more information, plus a little talk on types of dials. Dials, funny enough, we tend to use them and not talk about them, so we'll have a little talk today. Anyhow, here we have, as you can probably see, a 300 style telephone. Now, these were made by several firms and in different countries, but we in England know this as our good old standby, with the normal handset with the spit type cup, which I believe this handset was used on the earlier pyramid type phones, I believe by Siemens. If I'm wrong, someone will correct me. And also, while we're looking at the actual handset, you'll notice the inserts inside are of the newer types. These are ones which were fitted to the 700 type telephone. This one, by the way, is made by WER, which I believe is Whiteley Electrical Works. But don't quote me on that again. And on the transmitter, or the transmitter, you've got the newer modern type of the day, and that was fitted in. So that is certainly a variance to this type of handset. Now let's get on to the maker of this phone. Well, let's have a look at the diagram. There's the diagram, and as you can see, they call it 332, which it definitely resembles. And if you didn't know any different, you'd say yes, it's a 332. Made by, if I can see, where's the name? AEP, that's Automatic Electric Portugal. Now, we all know Portugal is next door to Spain, and they also used our 706 telephone. I remember seeing one on a trip there many years ago. So it's a possibility that they did, well, more than the possibility, they did use the 706, which was a popular phone and also used in Israel. Anyhow, there's the diagram of it. The induction coil they call bob, which is obviously short for bobbin, meaning where the wires are wound round like a bobbin. That is your induction coil. Everything else is the same. You've got your bell circuit. Now, interesting to note that with most phones, apart from the English wired ones, there was two wires going in the A and B tip and ring, and the ringing was not done in series or from the capacitor in the termination block, which they call a Rosetta. These are nice and easy, so if you want to wire them up, I don't know why they call them A and B here, but the connections would correspond to the A and B. Leave that strap in so that the bell rings, and away you go. Nice and easy. No messing about with bells in series, just a straightforward connection. Anyhow, before my battery runs out, and if it does run out, I'll take this over to a second video. Here's, as I say, the normal chassis, if you like, of the 706 type telephone. We're interested in a note, and this is something I noticed when I first started with BT or GPO. Here they blacken where the plungers plunge down and make contact, they're blackened. Now I know in England they used to use a lead pencil and sort of make it black. What this was for, I don't know. Might have stopped sticking, but here it's actually, this has been painted on, so it's obviously a reason. You've got your contacts underneath there, nice sturdy contacts. These were a well-made phone actually, which proved, you know, they done the test of time. Let's turn him over and have a quick look at the other side. Typical 500 ohm coils. Your capacitor, made by ATE, Automatic Telephone and Electric, which was a subsidiary of the American Automatic Company, which was founded by an undertaker, Alwyn Strowger, which you all know the story. He was losing calls as his wife worked on the switchboard, and calls were often being diverted to another person on the switchboard whose husband run another undertaker's. So yeah, there was a bit of history. Anyhow, he invented the automatic switch. He used a top hat, he put pins in it to represent the selector. I remember I told this story. We had an open day once, many years ago, at the Exchange, and I told this to one of the customers, and someone I was working with said, that's a tall story. Fortunately, my governor backed me up and said, no, it wasn't a tall story, it was it was fact. Anyhow, getting that back to the phone itself, you might not recognise the dial, but this is Automatic Electric's dial, a dial which you will find on French phones, some Belgian phones, where there was a connection with automatic in America, and of course on the automatic electric phones in America. And this is a typical dial that they use, very basic, and if I can make it work, very simple. You've got your, I'm just hoping the battery's going to last. If it doesn't, we'll take it over to 2 because I think it's important. Here you have the impulse springs, and the off normals are those springs there. All dials are basically simple devices to make and break a circuit at 10 pulses per second. I know they did make some that were twice that speed, but we won't go into that. I think that was used in Japan. Anyhow, one way to tell whether you've got an automatic dial is have a look at the front of the dial. There will always be a space between the stop and the digit O, that space there, and that tells you it's an automatic dial. And you'll find this on phones by ITI, Indian Telephone Industries, which also got their phones from ATE, or Automatic Telephone Electric. Everything else is virtually the same. This is unused, it's got a sort of brass coloured finger wheel, so it's quite a nice phone actually, and one which I shall probably put out to run next time round. I like to circulate these phones around so they do in fact get a little bit of service. So that was the dial. That's the automatic electric dial, and it's found on, as I say, several different phones around the world. We've done the circuit. Have a look at the bottom. There's the base, which is the normal type of base that you'd find on a 332. Various dates on it. 62, 60, 61. Whether these were dates put on when the phone went for repair, I don't know. But you've got in the middle the trademark again, AEP, where it was inspected. Automatic Electric of Portugal. These phones often turn up on eBay, and they're worth getting because, okay, they're not the English 332, but they are almost the same. The Indian ones are slightly different. They did make one which was of this type. I can show you that because I've got one. But normally the components were mounted on the actual base. But this one is identical and in fact called a 332. Anyway, any questions on that, please ask. You see the original type of cable, non-curly, and a modern cable put on. Colour obviously black. No drawer on these. There's a little space where the drawer would go, but these were not fitted to this particular phone. I think it's only certain ones had this little drawer, but they certainly weren't fitted on this model. As you can see, there's a little block part, shows it to be blocked. Anyhow, leaving that, I'm going to talk quickly about dials. Here we've got 4 different types of dials. Now, in England, you'll most often find this dial. I don't know what the number is. I'm not very good at numbers. 12. I think it's 12, is it? February 63, second month. But this is the typical dial you would find on English phones. It's called a trigger dial. So named because the action is like a trigger. You have that little part there, so I can point to it when I can find it, which flips back and a trigger. I think these were introduced to prevent what they call back dialing. It's all to do with saving money and stopping people making calls free. Don't ask me how they did it, but that's what I was told. And this is the trigger dial. The trigger dial was invented, I believe, by GEC. And it took over from the slipping cam dial. And here we have an example of a slipping cam dial. This is not a GPO dial. It's identical though. And this is what you would find if you had a slipping cam dial, which would be interchangeable to the trigger dial, but it would look very much like that. This has actually come out of a phone from Denmark, KTAS from Denmark, and this was invented also by GEC, known as a slipping cam dial. Got your sets of contacts in there, which is the same. You've got your regulator. It's slightly different, but nevertheless it's something you might encounter. Now next up, we've got a dial. Unfortunately my phone battery seems to be lasting, and this is one that was manufactured, I believe, by Ericsson, and you would find this on some of the Continental phones, and was quite a sturdy job. I can't show you operating. I've only got one pair of hands. There's your dial. This is one by Ericsson's. I think other people made it as well, but this is typical of certain dials fitted to Continental phones. Lastly up, I must show you this. I made several different forms of these. Here we have a Russian job. I think it's Russian. It's obviously come off of one of my Russian phones, and it's basically very similar. You've got your cam there, which rotates and gives you your pulsing, and below that you've got your off normal springs. Once again, the regulator. We like a neoprene, I think it's neoprene or Paxlin wheel, toothed wheel. Tell you, man, it's got a nice one. I was hoping this was going to fit one of my Russian phones, but unfortunately it doesn't. So we'll wait till another one of the correct type turns up. In Russia they did have several phones, more than several phones, and the dials seem to be different on every one of them, particularly the fixing. This one's fixed by 2 screws, but they weren't always like that. Anyhow, I think that's all I've got to say, and I'm grateful the battery has held out. Any questions, please ask. And to recap, this is the AEP phone 332 automatic electric of Portugal, which was a branch or owned by Automatic Electric of Beeston, Nottingham, which in turn was owned or controlled by Automatic Electric of America, going back to the good old days of Alwyn B. Strowger and his undertaking business in Kansas. And that's a true story. I haven't made that up. I try not to tell porkies, but you'll always be found out. Anyhow, that's all I've got to say on this. Any questions, please ask, and I'll try and get back. Any questions about the dials? I've looked at these things for many years, and yeah, you learn a bit. Not too much, a little bit. Anyhow, thanks again for watching. Thank you. And I say the quality will be slightly different on this because I've had to revert to my older phone. Thanks again. Thank you.